Have you ever heard the phrase trauma-informed yoga and wondered what it meant? There's also trauma-aware and trauma-sensitive, and each of those terms mean something different. So what's the difference, and how do you know if this is something that you should be looking for? Here's the scoop. Let's get into it. So you might encounter a trauma-informed yoga class in a yoga studio, in a gym setting, or as a one-on-one session. A trauma-informed class isn't necessarily going to be labeled as trauma-informed. Perhaps the teacher is using a trauma-informed approach in their teaching style. So your trauma-informed session may not necessarily be labeled as such, but it will probably include the following things. The facilitator will introduce themselves at the beginning of class and let you know what to expect from your session. A trauma-informed class would be in a controlled atmosphere, and the facilitator will let you know where the exits and the washrooms and everything are, so that you are familiar with your surroundings. In a trauma-informed class, the facilitator will use invitational language, so instead of telling you what to do, they will invite you to participate in what they are offering. Participants will be reminded to practice at their own pace and to their own depth, and there will be an emphasis on awareness of internal experience. And there would definitely be direct affirmative consent before any hands-on adjustments are made, if any. And note that trauma-informed does not mean gentle. You can find a yoga class with these characteristics and practice a power flow style, vinyasa, other sort of fast-paced strength-building classes can also be trauma-informed. Okay, so if that's trauma-informed, what's trauma-aware and trauma-sensitive? Trauma-sensitive yoga is a particular protocol used in conjunction with other supervised treatment of PTSD, CPTSD, anxiety, or other diagnosed conditions. One might be referred to a trauma-sensitive yoga class by their psychologist or their healthcare team, and that might be a specialized group class, or it could be a one-on-one session. I would say that trauma-sensitive yoga includes the characteristics of trauma-informed yoga that I mentioned a minute ago, but trauma-sensitive yoga would have some additional criteria. A trauma-sensitive yoga facilitator will be in contact with the participant's healthcare team. Special care is taken to control the environment and to notify the participants about what's coming next. No corrections or adjustments are given in a trauma-sensitive yoga class environment. The facilitator will be participating in the class along with the students. Beyond demonstration, trauma-sensitive yoga facilitators have an excellent understanding of how psychological trauma can affect a person's ability to move, breathe, and communicate. Trauma-sensitive professionals are often required to take 300 hours of training or more. Okay, so what's trauma-aware? Trauma-aware is a loose term used to describe a facilitator that has a general understanding that trauma can have an effect on a person's movement or way of being. If someone took an afternoon or a weekend workshop about trauma, I would call that person trauma-aware. Note that all these styles of teaching include an intentional plan and focus for the class. This isn't wishy-washy, move however you want to freestyle yoga. The facilitator will have a sequence, a plan, and will guide you through an intentional series of movements. However, options will be given. You'll be guided to participate at a pace and depth that feels appropriate to you. Who is trauma-informed yoga for? Trauma-informed yoga is for everyone. Whether or not you identify as being someone that has survived a traumatic experience, there are definitely benefits to attending a trauma-informed practice. We all have different anatomy, experiences, and preferences. A trauma-informed teacher can provide options to help you move towards a goal. Trauma-informed yoga is also for those who do not want to be physically adjusted without consent. Here's an example of how a trauma-informed yoga teacher would welcome you to class. Good morning, my name's Bren, and this is a 60-minute hot flow class. This practice will begin with some seated postures, followed by some fluid standing sequences, and will be ending in a reclined position. If at any point you'd like to change what you're doing or exit the room, please feel welcome to do so. You can exit through this door and find washrooms down the hall and to the right. Please do listen and respect the feedback you're receiving from your body throughout this class. You're in charge of making conscious choices appropriate for you on this day. You may choose to soften your gaze or close your eyes as we begin to settle into our practice. And here's an example of a non-trauma informed yoga class. Hi everyone, we're starting in child's pose. Close your eyes, breathe in and out slowly. Stay here and find your focus. If you do this right, all your stress will melt away. Here's my 2 cents. After having an exclusively self-taught yoga and meditation practice for about 10 years, I was really shocked by what I encountered at the first few studio yoga classes I attended. I experienced hands-on adjustments that were given without warning or any communication. I felt socially pressured to participate in partner yoga poses with strangers, and I was told that if I didn't press my body into an uncomfortable depth, then I wasn't doing the yoga right. These experiences sent me back to my isolated personal practice until years later I stumbled upon trauma-informed yoga. I hadn't heard about it before and I hadn't encountered it until I had by chance. And this was as someone who was doing significant reading and researching about the topic of yoga. The world of Western yoga is a largely unregulated space. There's no yoga police that's going around and checking people's credentials or ensuring that they're providing an adequate experience or holding space for people properly. Yoga Alliance is an organization that has some minimum standards for training, but membership is voluntary. Anyone can call themselves a yoga teacher and tell you what to do with your body if you let them. So how to find a trauma-informed yoga teacher if this is something you're looking for? There are many programs, trainings, and workshops that educate people about proper affirmative informed consent, using invitational language, and how different people may respond to different communication styles. I learned a lot recently from a 100-hour trauma-informed facilitation course. If you're looking for a yoga teacher you can trust in this way, I would start by checking their credentials. A knowledgeable yoga teacher should have at least RYT 200 designation, which means they took a 200-hour training course from a Yoga Alliance certified education provider. Also look for their additional certifications. If they've taken any substantial trauma-informed or trauma-sensitive training, they will probably list it with their credentials. A 50 or 100-hour course is a good base for trauma-informed facilitation. Ask your healthcare team for a recommendation about a trauma-informed yoga teacher, or search out a yoga teacher that specifies that they follow trauma-informed protocols. If there's anything I missed or there's more information you want to know about trauma-informed yoga teaching, you can leave me a comment below. I'll leave my email address so you can ask me a private question, and I'll also link a blog post I wrote with more information on this topic. Thank you.